Okay, last video of 3.5 where we're still solving formulas, but even more. Woohoo! Okay, I'm going to start with something that I think could help you out, and that is when you have something like 3/5 k. Well, is there another way to write that? So if we have 3/5 k, recall that that means 3/5 times k, and you can throw that k over 1. So you would end up with, multiplying across, 3k over 5. And there's a sort of an advantage to writing it like this versus like this because everything is it's just one fraction now. Okay, let's see how that comes up in the next example. Oh, this is my favorite example. We've got lots going on here. So we've got b equals 4/3 a times b plus c, and we want to solve for a. Okay, so we've got this in the way and we've got this in the way. So first of all, let's take a look at that 4/3. How can we get rid of the 4/3? Well, what is 4/3 doing? It is multiplying. So what can we do to undo it? Well, let's do it the cheap way and multiply both sides times the reciprocal times the reciprocal. Okay, so the result of that is 3/4 b equals, and then when we multiply these two, we get 1. So on the right, we have a times b plus c. Now, this is fine that we've written it like this, 3/4 b, but let's go ahead and call that 3b over 4 and put that all into one fraction because we're going to have to divide, and it's just a lot easier to be able to divide. Remember that in the last video I gave you that hint, when you divide, it just goes in the denominator. Okay, so where are we? Okay, let me point out one thing over on the side. So you don't have to write this. You do not write, because I just want to show you what we want to avoid. Some of you may want to take this a, b plus c and multiply that a across, and you would get ab plus ac. But remember, we're trying to solve for a. So we don't want a's scattered all about. So this is going to lead us down a sorry road. So we just don't want to do that. So I'm going to cross that off. So if we don't do that, what are we going to do? So we look over here, we're solving for a. What's in the way of having a all by itself? Well, it's this parentheses b plus c. So just consider that as one whole thing. It's just a big lump of something. So what is that lump of something, the b plus c, doing with a? It's multiplying. So how do we undo it? Well, you know the answer to that. We divide both sides by that whole thing, and I'm going to show you here. It's b plus c. Divide this whole side, and we're going to divide this whole side, but remember, the cheap way to do that is when you're dividing, you can just put that. Oops, we don't want that. You can just put that b plus c, still in its bag, down in the denominator. And what happens over on the right? Well, those cancel, and you've got a left over. So final answer, a equals 3b over 4 times the quantity b plus c. Whew, that was kind of complicated, and it's getting more fun here. The next one, I'm doing the exact same equation, but I am going to solve for b. So here's b. He's tied up in these parentheses. So we've got to do a lot of stuff before we can get him out of those parentheses. So what would you like to take care of first? How about that 4/3 again? And what are we going to do to take care of that? Yeah, we know we can multiply both sides by 3/4. So it's going to be 3/4 b, but I'm just going to go ahead and call that 3b over 4 equals, when I multiply this times 3/4, it goes to 1, so we don't really even need to say 1 times anything. And we've got this. Well, we're still solving for b, but it's still kind of tied up inside those parentheses. So what's in the way of those parentheses? Well, the a. And what is a doing? It's multiplying. So what can we do to undo it? Divide both sides by a. And that sweetheart little shortcut I gave you, when you're dividing by a, it just ends up downstairs, and what do we have left over? b plus c in parentheses, and you know what I'm going to ask you about those parentheses. Are those parentheses working or are they cosmetic? Yeah, they're cosmetic. Nothing is happening. There's nothing to do there. So now, whoo-hoo, we are almost finished. Can you see how to get b all by itself? The only thing that's in the way is that plus c, so we're going to subtract c from both sides. So 3b over 4a minus c equals b. And you'll notice it's this whole thing minus c. We didn't put that in the numerator or the denominator of the fraction because it's the whole thing minus c. So final step, 3b over 4a minus c. Okay, last example. Whoops, we went too far. There it is. Okay, solve for r. I think you know how to do this. Got the r right here. It's inside the parentheses, so we've got to take care of what's outside the parentheses before we can even think of getting to that r. So let's get rid of that 5/7. What say you? Okay, what are we going to do to both sides? Well, we're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal, 7/5. But I'm going to go ahead and put the 7 and the s up in the numerator. And what do we have left? R minus 15 in parentheses, and I'm not even going to ask you. Cosmetic, cosmetic, so we can get rid of them. So we're almost there. Whoa, that's really getting rid of the R. We've got this R. What's in the way? The minus 15. What are we going to do to get rid of that 15? Add 15 to both sides. 7s over 5 plus 15 equals r. You had to add it to the whole side, not to the numerator, not to the denominator. So your answer, just turn that around, 7s over 5 plus 15. Woo-hoo-hoo. And that is it for 3.5.